Released by Nintendo in 1994 for the Super Nintendo, Super Metroid is often called one of the best titles for the system, and the best game in a series with many fantastic titles. While I agree with the praise it gets and think that it's one of the top games in the series, I still think that it has a few minor issues that make probably Metroid Zero Mission or Fusion better in my opinion. Still, it goes without saying that Super Metroid is one of those must-play video games, especially for action fans. The story of the game is minimal, but it really works. Basically, this game follows off Metroid 2 for the Game Boy and features Samus trying to retrieve the last stolen Metroid. It's one of those games where the story is really only at the beginning and the end, and it could be summed up in a few sentences, but I love that it's a story that shows more than it tells. It actually has some very tense, organic moments, even along with the tragic moment near the end. Safe to say, it's not a game about plot at all, given the tone of the game, but what is there will surprise you in a good way. The gameplay is classic Metroid, running around a gigantic maze, collecting new powers, and exploring your way to the next area while looking for secrets all over the place. The focus is on exploration and action, and with super tight controls that allow you to control Samus any way you want, you'll never really have a problem navigating, and it's a ton of fun. Seriously, the controls are so clean that when you die, you almost always feel like it was your fault. However, one of my minor complaints is that you can't really switch weapons too cleanly. You have to kind of click through them, and that's not too bad, but I think it would have been better if you could quickly do it from the start menu or something. Also, some of the special moves can be really tough to get down at first, but you'll get used to them with some practice. I also thought that it was a really cool touch that you actually learn some of these special moves by watching the animals in the world actually do them and then mimicking their actions. It's actually a really cool touch. In any case, the game controls very cleanly, and it makes you feel very powerful most of the time, which is the reason why you play action video games. In general, I'm not really a big fan of the Metroid kind of gameplay, mostly because I'm not a fan of mazes and navigation puzzles. However, it's just a very satisfying game to play because of the tight controls and the satisfaction of collecting new items to power up. The regular enemies each present a challenge that you can go about in different ways. There are a lot of unique puzzles and areas and obstacles that test your reflexes, your patience, or your dexterity. There are many puzzles in the form of navigation, as you use your various weapons to figure out where to go. It's a game that really encourages exploration, experimentation, and creativity, and I really love that. The bosses are also really cool. They're usually big and intimidating and very fun to fight. My only complaint here is with the difficulty though, because some of the bosses were way too easy, including the final boss, while some other bosses are really tough, like Ridley. And then there are some bosses that can be beaten in absolutely no time at all if you know exactly what you're doing. Still, the gameplay presents a lot of memorable moments and generally really tight game design. Perhaps the most striking thing about this game is the tone though. When it boots up and you see this introduction, it's hard to believe that this is a Nintendo game. There are some genuinely creepy and unnerving moments, and the whole game is just drenched in this feeling of isolation, ambience, and sometimes dread. It's not really scary most of the time, it's just really unnerving, and I love that. The whole game is really just the whole package, and it was a very good ride. The graphics in the game are some of the best on the system. Samus herself looks detailed and awesome. All of your attacks look cool, and there are detailed animations all over the place. The enemy design is awesome, and the locations are very visually distinct. It's a game that creates a world that you can believe is real. Everything is connected, the game uses lighting and colors well. It's just one of those games that you can imagine clearly in your mind, no matter if you played it once or 100 times. I could go on talking about the gruesome boss designs, sinister locations, and the wonderful effects, but you should really just play it for yourself and see. The music in the game is also really good. There really isn't that much music, but just a lot of ambience and natural sounds. They did a good job of pulling you into these locations and making the world seem more organic and awesome. Not to say that there isn't music, the main theme and the Lower Brinstar theme are really good. The sound effects are also some of the best I've experienced in a game too. The creature shrieks, their chilling roars, satisfying explosions, and that classic melody that plays when you get the items is just all really good stuff that pulls you into the game and doesn't let you go for the roughly 4 to 8 hour playtime. To conclude, Super Metroid deserves its status as a classic and must-play in general. I think that some of the Game Boy Advance games had cleaner gameplay and were more polished overall, but I still think that this is one of the top games on the system. Again, I think the difficulty was also all over the place sometimes, and it's pretty easy to get lost sometimes, but it's still one of the very best for the system. So play it, though chances are you already have. Thanks for watching.